I'm Ben Zimmer. I'm the CEO of Priovant Therapeutics, and we're developing Brepocitinib, which is an oral investigational medicine for a variety of different rare autoimmune diseases. And the lead indication that we're pursuing is dermatomyositis, which is a disease that affects about 40,000 adults in the US, so rare but not ultra rare. And a very severe disease that affects of inflammation that affects both the skin and muscle. The muscle weakness can be quite pronounced. Large numbers of patients struggle to walk and require mobility aids like canes, walkers, and wheelchairs. A large number experience falls, which sometimes can lead to hospitalization. And then the skin disease is quite bad as well. These are very painful and often disfiguring rashes that can cover large portions of the body, including the scalp, where they can lead to hair loss. So really a quite debilitating disease, and very little available for patients. The current standard of care is mostly steroids and then general immunosuppressants like azathioprine, methotrexate, mycophenolate. Intravenous immunoglobulin is also approved, but that's a very challenging medicine for patients. It requires coming into an infusion center on average 3 days a week for several hours a day, 1 week per month. So quite burdensome. We're not talking about some of the more modern type of injections here. And also a therapy that is not always well tolerated by patients, and both in terms of kind of more acute near-term things like headaches, nausea, and then also in the kind of longer-term rarer but severe side effects as well. So really not a lot of good choices there for patients. No modern targeted therapies approved. Our drug, Brepocitinib, we think the mechanism is very tightly aligned to pursue actually the underlying cause of the disease, which is a dysregulation of certain cytokines, including type 1 interferon and type 2 interferon, which our drug suppresses the signaling of these cytokines. And so a lot of excitement around the potential, and we actually set out with a bold mission to prove the efficacy of this, as we decided to pursue the largest interventional trial that's ever been conducted in dermatomyositis. So we set out on that goal a few years ago, and with a lot of support and collaboration from the research community, the medical community, the patient community, we recently finished enrollment of that study with 241 patients globally. And so looking ahead to the data readout, which should be next year in the late summer, fall timeframe. So very excited about that. And if that study is successful, which we hope it will be, we'll be on the back of that preparing an NDA submission and hopefully get the drug approved for patients. So that could just be a few years away now, and we're really excited about that. Steroid-sparing benefit is something we're very focused on in our dermatomyositis trial and otherwise. So we're making, in our study, a large number, about 75% of patients are on some background steroidal therapy at baseline, and we're making a big effort to taper them off. And the study is ongoing, but at least so far we've been pretty successful at that, and so with a large number of patients. And so our hope is to be able to demonstrate in the final data set, not only that we can provide benefit on measurements of disease activity, but can do so actually while reducing steroid burden. And I think you put it well. These steroidal therapies, they work in terms of reducing inflammation, but they just come with so much baggage. It's really horrible impact on patients and their lives and well-being and health. And I think, we as a society and the medical field, need to really be, in my opinion, very focused on, bringing patients off of these drugs. And I think that's one of the reasons why we've been very focused on this in our data set. So we actually have the data to back it up and say not just, oh, our drug can work on top of steroids, but our drug can actually help patients, experience benefit and get off steroids. I think the access challenges, I think you bring up are, really, really important. Obviously, anyone, my own father passed away from brain cancer, and, but he was on treatment. It's always a challenge to get, anyone who's been a patient has kind of dealt with these access challenges. And I think, I think there's a few things. I think one is to, one which is incumbent on the pharma companies, and what we're doing is to actually develop the drugs for the not just for the kind of obvious largest indications like psoriasis or rheumatoid arthritis, but actually take these other autoimmune diseases and really run the sorts of trials that are rigorous enough to support, first the FDA to have it be on label and approved for that, and then eventually payers as well. So I think that's something that's on biotech and biopharma's companies to do, is to get their drugs approved for indications with the highest unmet need, and that's something that we're doing. And then I think it's on us to make sure to have the medical community and patient community aware of, first for now, the research we're doing, and then if the drug is approved, aware of that and aware of the benefits, and same thing with insurance companies, and certainly helping patients and physicians fight for access once the drug's approved is something that we're definitely going to do. And then I can just say from my own experience as a caregiver, again, in the oncology setting, but I think these autoimmune diseases with high morbidity are similar, it's important as a patient, I think, to kind of take charge of your own care a little bit and research what's out there, research different doctors who are real experts in the specific disease that you have, go seek second and third opinions on things, and really really kind of take charge of your own treatment. And I think that can help, I think, quite a bit in terms of the outcomes. So I'd say the most common treaters of dermatomyositis are rheumatologists, followed by dermatologists, followed by neurologists. There's I would say, in terms of just kind of the general community specialists, definitely rheumatology is kind of where your kind of standard rheumatologist is going to have pretty good familiarity with dermatomyositis. In the United States in particular, there's a large number of dermatology centers of excellence that are really, really excellent for dermatomyositis. There are, some kind of joint room derm clinics, some myositis centers at a lot of academic hospitals that are really great. And then a number of neuromuscular physicians as well who are really quite good. So it's interesting with a disease like dermatomyositis, you almost have a kind of interdisciplinary kind of community of physicians who are experts in the field. It actually makes it, I think, a kind of fun and interesting and dynamic area to be doing research for that reason as well. You mentioned up front about the pipeline as well, and dermatomyositis is the lead indication. We also have a phase 3 study now kicking off in a disease called non-infectious uveitis, which is ocular inflammation, and again, a quite devastating disease. It's the 4th leading cause of blindness among the working age population in the developed world. So, again, obviously different organ system than DM, so the symptoms are different, but similar in terms of just very bad disease with patients really in need of treatment. There is one modern therapy approved, Humira, which obviously well-known drug, but Humira's efficacy in uveitis, although enough to get the drug approved and used with some frequency, is limited, and a lot of patients fail on Humira. You see a lot of use of off-label biologics in the United States, at least, because patients are not doing well enough on Humira. And we ran a phase 2 study which suggested that our potential efficacy in uveitis could be considerably better than what Humira has shown. Obviously, we need to confirm that and prove it in a larger placebo-controlled phase 3 study. So that's what we're kicking off now, but that's another area that we're very excited about. So yeah, I think one thing that's you're getting at, which is very astute, is there's a lot of biologic rash. When you're thinking about where to take a drug, it all starts with the biologic rationale. That's very important. But ultimately, it's the clinical data that that ultimately carries weight. There are some biologic hypotheses that pan out, some don't. I think part of the challenge in autoimmunity is there's so many different. It's not like some diseases where there's like a single genetic mutation or something like that that's the clear cause. In autoimmunity, the immune system is so complex, and there's so many interrelated kind of pathways and activities and cell types and molecules involved. It's sometimes hard to know to kind of oversimplify it a little bit, what's fire and what's smoke, if that makes sense. Like what is actually the pathogenic cytokine versus what is some cytokine or feature of the or complement protein or whatever it is that is actually not necessarily a pathogenic driver of the disease, but is kind of overexpressed as almost as like a symptom of the autoimmunity. And so obviously basic science researchers spend a lot of time doing experiments to try to gain insights into that, and those publications are helpful. But ultimately, a lot of it is, to be honest, trial and error. And I think, medical research has made a lot of progress over the last 50 years in being less trial and error than it used to be, but it's still a lot of that. And I think, so I think that's a big piece of it. You can look to, there are like related types of drugs to ours approved that don't do the exact same thing that we do, but maybe have, do some overlapping things. And so you can look, those are not approved for the indications that we're pursuing, but they might be approved for other indications. And there might be some case reports that doctors have put out or investigator-initiated trials, showing or suggesting at least that those drugs might provide some benefit. So we certainly look to those as as an additional data point as we're thinking about what indications to pursue. But yeah, there's certainly there's science to it, and there's an art to it. It's not just kind of a formula sort of thing.